All of the views and opinions expressed here are those of the individual speaking and may not be representative of Konig American. At times, language may be considered vulgar. Listener discretion is suggested.
You are now listening to the Konig Behind the Wheel podcast.
All right, we're live. Welcome to a special episode of the Behind the Wheel podcast. I'm Scott. I'm the marketing director for Konig Wheels. With me is Joey Redman. Joey's the founder of Wreck Magazine and has been published in over 20 automotive magazines. Additionally, he has built SEMA vehicles for OEs like Hyundai and Ford. Finally, you can find his 10 Things Learned article available on formuladrift.com after the event. In case you're new to the podcast, Joey and I get together after each round. We briefly run through thoughts and highlights from the event. This in addition to our regular format, so make sure to look for the next one, which will be after the championship round at Irwindale. We have made it.
Ooh.
We're like closing in on it. Like we're right there. We're at the end. And I thought was interesting about Texas was coming out of St. Louis. It felt a little Deja Vu-ish, especially from the beginning. We got Pro 2 in the rain. There was Pro 2 in the rain in both events. Then Pro, right? It kind of dried up for everything for Pro moving into Saturday.
Yeah, there's a little bit of rain during qualifying, but nothing too crazy.
Right. So that kind of felt strange. If you look at the track configurations, very similar. I mean, except for, St. Louis had that much wider, much longer outer bank going into that last turn there. So, it's very, even the same, S clips in the beginning, it kind of all felt very reminiscent of one another.
Mm-hmm. I know what you mean. I mean, technically, the way they used to run Texas back in the old days of Formula Drift is basically like a mirror of the Gateway track.
Okay. Yeah, that would kind of make sense. Let's go right back into point number 10 that you have here. Dylan Hughes needs a win at Irwindale. I think we're all kind of on that. If you're following the Pro 2 race, Travis Reeder is leading by a good amount, and Dylan Hughes is right on his heels there, sort of.
I mean, listen, as much as you want to write off Dylan perhaps or consider that possibility, I mean, that's kind of what everybody did.
Kevin Lawrence.
Right, like last year it was the exact opposite, right? Like everybody was like, Reeder's the champ, like, the only possible way Kevin Lawrence could be
to win the event.
The champion is if
Reeder goes out early.
Reeder goes out in top 16 and Kevin wins the event.
Shocking.
And that's what happened. So,
right.
Irwindale's going to be interesting for these Pro 2 guys, I think, just from the fact that they, the Pro 2 guys haven't really had a lot of time on banks.
Right.
And then I think on top of that,
yeah,
you need a lot of power to make it around that bank. So I think there's very easily a situation where somebody makes a simple mistake, and either crashes in qualifying or, tries to push too hard in tandem. And,
right.
Unfortunately, it's a two-way race. I mean, basically, once Dylan or Kevin qualifies, Ola, who's in third, is basically disqualified. But, I think it's anybody's race. Reeder has a more comfortable lead at the moment, but Dylan's a good competitor. He's got the most winning driver in Formula Drift history as a spotter. So, I think there's some possibility there. It could be a good Irwindale.
Yeah, Dylan's got a lot of skill. He's clearly come out and shown to be one of the dominant forces in Pro 2 this year. And additionally, just kind of running back to one of the points that you brought up about going to Irwindale. This is the first time the Pro 2 goes to Irwindale. So
yeah.
A lot of times, this is going to be a lot of the issues that a lot of these guys have not seen this track yet. So
yeah, and honestly, I think it's going to be a compound of a lot of other issues. Like the reason Irwindale had never been at Pro 2 is because there's no space for Pro 2.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but my assumption is they're going to put Pro 2 like in general parking and put some K-rails up. That's my guess, just because there's no room.
Okay.
Like, So I don't think it's going to be like a very like spacious or convenient setup. So I think that could even add some additional challenges to some of these teams.
Right, and not to mention that the bank goes the opposite direction to what most of these guys are used to.
Yeah.
So there could be some issues there. But moving on to point number 9, Rookie of the Year race is close. We're talking about the race between Matt Van Kirk, Dirk Stratton, and Taguchi.
Yeah, Taguchi's kind of popped up out of nowhere,
Right.
a little bit, so to speak. The Rookie of the Year race is a race that sometimes I get real uninterested in because they let people like Daigo Saito be rookie, and I still think it's really lame when he's obviously not a rookie. Like, I don't know. I have my own personal feeling. I think if you're a champion of another, top international series, you shouldn't be considered a rookie. But anyway,
Right.
here nor there. I guess at that rate, you could argue maybe Taguchi shouldn't be one either because I think he's Formula Drift Japan champion, which is also Formula Drift, so that's also weird. But
I don't know.
Anyway,
In this instance, I would even argue that maybe it fits.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is all of the guys running for Rookie of the Year are actually relatively like rookies,
Right.
to the series. So that always makes that very interesting. Van Kirk, who you've had on the show,
Yeah.
he's in the lead, small lead, 15 points. That's
Right.
anybody's game. And then you've got Dirk. And then you've got, I think Tagushi's like another, like, I can't remember off the top of my head.
19 points or something like that.
Yeah, okay. And so, I mean, that's easily one of those guys kind of sneaks a couple battles in or like qualifies and, maybe gets a bye run from some accident or whatever. Like, it could be Rookie of the Year. I think all three of those guys have done really well. I think Van Kirk's been great. I think he discussed his issue on the show is that he just has an underpowered car.
Right.
Dirk looks really good. He's a little green still as like a rookie. Some of his Corvette Thunder kind of got stole by Matt Field. I think both of them have been. All three of those guys, as far as rookies go, I think have been great. I think if you look at the other rookies in the series, you're steering a little more towards disappointment.
Yeah. Taguchi had a rough start, but I think he's kind of gotten his bearings on now.
I agree. I mean, I'd love to say the same thing about Federico, but
Well, sure.
His rough start is still rough. Granted, I mean, the guy, caught a Ferrari on fire in Long Beach and was back for Orlando. So
Yeah, fantastic.
I mean, the commitment's there. I think if I would have crashed or caught on fire a $375,000 car, I probably would have called it a day. Been like, clearly Formula Drift isn't for me.
Yeah, I mean, if I would have caught a Camry on fire, that Formula Drifting competition, I probably would have called it a day. All right, so point number 8, Kevin Lawrence puts together an incredible... I mean, I would say for Kevin, it was an incredible battle against Visick.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue maybe like if it was maybe like not Kevin driving and then maybe not Pityor driving, like I think if you took that if you could like clone that tandem battle with some other drivers,
I get what you mean.
Like I think Kevin could have gotten a win in that scenario, but I think Kevin, it was like early in the event. He wasn't perfect. He had that bobble.
Yeah, he bobbled in the beginning, and then he kind of, I think on his chase run, there was a little bit of straightening to kind of try to gain some proximity or something like that.
Yeah, but I mean, Kevin did it. Like, yeah. I don't know why Kevin's car was so fast or why Pityor's car was so slow. Yeah, I was like, is this thing on the verge of exploding? Like, it was crazy. I mean, that's the only time in Formula Drift history, in the small history, but the year and a half or almost 2 years now, that I've seen one of the Worthouse cars get like walked.
Right.
And so, props to Kevin. I mean, he was like, I would say like this close to taking the win. Like, I actually think if he could have replicated his first battle in the one more time, he probably would have taken it. But
yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, it was interesting. I mean, Kevin and the Enjuku Racing team have been working on that car and that RB platform for a while now. They went through a few versions of, their RB, and I think now they're in that RB. I think there's a 3.2. I think they're stroked to a 3.2.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's up there. And if I misquoted it, well, then shoot me. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? Like I got a job going on. But yeah, they've been working really hard on that car, and I've spoken to Kevin multiple times. He says the car is fast. He's like, listen, this thing is fast and able to be, to go with, any of these V8s out here. And if that didn't show it, I don't know what did.
I don't know what more needs to be said, but it was, if he would have had a lesser opponent for top 32, he easily would have been in top 16.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. I don't claim to know as much as the judges, and I'm watching from, the live stream, but I mean, it looked like it was a pretty consistent battle, so who knows. So let's see here. Ryan Littoral, man. I like Ryan. I've had a chance to meet him a few times. He goes to the grade 8 and running that CoroWorks 350Z. So I think Ryan clearly, whether you followed him in his kind of his own grassroots program, I don't know if I can call it a grassroots program, but in his own grassroots program prior in his 240, he's a talented driver. He clearly has a lot of aggression. He takes his craft very seriously. It is what he does for a living. It's not, he doesn't have another job. This is what he does. He's a professional drift driver. And, he had some opportunity. They've had some mishaps along the way. They had an event that they couldn't attend. They had New Jersey where they had a mechanical and they never really got out of the gate. So, it's, I kind of always thought, and I believe the CoroWorks thought, and knows that Ryan has the potential to do some great things. So it was nice seeing him kind of go out there, have pieces in a row, and get into the grade 8 there.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it, but I guess we've turned the Formula Drift Top 10 into like the Konig edition.
I mean, inadvertently. I mean, I just can't help it. I mean, it's what we do.
Every driver has been affiliated with Konig we've talked about, but
not everyone.
Yeah, right. I mean, 10, no. Dylan, 9.
Dylan, I don't have Dylan.
Oh,
we don't have Dylan. We certainly don't have Visick.
Well, I was counting Kevin, obviously.
All right.
Dylan was my only hang-up, but
I'm with you.
I was just thinking of the much better version of Dylan, Travis Reeder.
Oh, don't say that. Listen, Dylan, I'll take him out for you, man. Like, I got your back if you're listening.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, I think they broke some stuff in Texas as well. Like, I think they had to do an emergency drive shaft, a couple other things like that, but it was good. I mean, he certainly wasn't like given his pathway to the grade 8.
Right.
It was good. I would have liked to see maybe like one more like better battle with him, but it's like kind of a bummer. Like Honadell kind of blew their tandem, but I think he might have been able to take Honadell. I mean, Alec is a ghost of who he once was. Just his like fall from competitiveness or like relevance has been very apparent. I mean, I'm just pulling up the standings. He's 15th now.
Yeah.
Which, honestly is better than how I feel he's been. But I mean, there was a point last year where like I was like, this kid could be champion next year. Like, right. I mean, and I don't know what's changed or like what's not cooking for him, but he's definitely off. I don't want to focus on him and take away from Littoral, but I think it's cool. I think Littoral is probably one of the least funded, like programs probably out there. I mean, obviously they're not even running the whole season. They're doing 4 rounds. I mean, technically CoroWorks is just like an independent shop just north of Atlanta.
Sure.
Which, I mean, that's very like not modern day Formula D, right? I mean, the days of like you guys being a small shop and like, having a drift car is kind of long gone. So it's kind of like, it's cool. It's like an era of Formula Drift past, and I think Littoral's kind of one of the right guys to be involved in that.
Yeah, no, it's a cool program. I mean, Kerry, the owner of CoreWorks, and Greg Wiesel and all those guys, they're a cool atmosphere, and they bring a lot of energy to it. So the fact that they go out there, you can really tell that they do it for the love of it, and that's it's one of the refreshing parts of kind of watching that program.
Yeah, totally.
Point number 6, Jeff Jones shows consistent growth. I mean, listen, we've seen Jeff Jones, and kill me if I'm wrong here, but we've seen Jeff Jones really kind of turn it on since Seattle, I believe, right? That was his kind of reawakening. We even called it out on one of the podcasts. We said, hey, look, he had more energy and kind of was in a better place than we've seen him in a long time. That was Seattle, so,
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think I've kind of changed my perception from when I wrote this to now. But I think what's interesting is
what was
that...
it, like 3 days?
it was 3 days ago, but I thought about it more. I had some drivers and people stay behind, and we kind of talked about stuff. And so anyway, what's interesting is I think a lot of these lower funded guys, I mean, I don't think Jeff Jones would mind me calling him like underfunded.
Right.
I think he takes some pride almost in that a little bit. But one of the problems with these underfunded guys is I think a lot of them put focus on building a new car. And I think rarely do you see that pay off. Like, rarely.
Right.
Like, you go look at like 15 through like 35 or however many guys are in the standings and be like, who got a new car? Who actually did better? And I think 9 times out of 10, you bring a new car in as an underfunded team, you're not going to do better.
It
Right?
goes back to seat time. Like, I mean, these guys,
Right.
knowing what these cars can do inside and out, half these guys don't have, they're going from event to event, but they don't get a lot of, seat time in between just because of the amount of money and effort it takes. So, sticking with one platform gives them that seat time.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's been an interesting thing to watch. Like, I mean, Jeff Jones is kind of turning himself into a guy that like people don't want to tandem against.
Right.
He's not like a easy win or like it's whatever. Like you're kind of seeing that like he's got that confidence, that extra fight. And so, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, but if I
Right.
did, he might be a guy that could shake up the championship one way or the other. Like, Dean or Aasbo finds himself lined up against him in 32 or 16. Like, I think he could take it to either of those guys, make
Right.
it interesting.
It's interesting. It's a good point, though. Like, the guys like, Dean, Aasbo, Visick, like, those are the guys that, you may feel are the stars of the show, but there's guys like Jones that really can make, events exciting because they can shake things up. They can really jar what you may feel are the outcomes before they even get started,
Exactly.
Point number 5, man, I cannot talk about this point one more time. Like, for real. The Worthouse team, I mean, all right, enough. And listen, I thought we had the most dramatic setup ever. If any time you were ever going to write a story, like, of this whole drift thing, this was the one, right? We're right before the championship round. We're in the championship match of round number 7 here at Texas. We have a good fast course. We line up Dean and Visick together. We get a really decent first. I mean, we get a decent first battle out of them. They switch spots, and out comes the good old mechanical. I mean, it almost feels... I don't want to say it out loud because I'm not that guy, but it just... I mean, even the way that Dean pulled off, it was just kind of like, no, I'm going to stop here. Now, listen, I believe that he had a mechanical. I'm sure that's what... It just doesn't... It's just like, oh, come on, enough already.
Yeah, number 4. Let's go.
Right. All right.
Cover that one.
Point number 4, after my rant, was Forrest Wang faulted for braking at an inside clip, right? He was in a non-decel zone.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's, I think that I don't know how to say this accurately. I think there's a possibility that if it wasn't Forrest Wang, that I think it could have gone the other way. And I think also later kind of recognizing that Vaughn was obviously having power steering issues. However, I think that the Forrest Wang fan club, who's clearly out there, needs to consider that, like, this has been a consistent issue of Forrest.
Right.
There's really, I don't think any inside clip in Formula Drift you should even be breaking at. I can't think of one. And so, you look at his situation with Forsberg at Wall, you look at Matt Field and Wall, and I think he's been faulted a couple other times. Like, I don't know what it is about the car or the setup or the program. I don't know,
Right.
but it's like, part of me thinks that, like, Forrest, for as entertaining and I think great of his driver is, you can't deny his, like, style, his persona. I think that whole thing is, like, pretty fantastic. But he almost is like maybe a driver that hasn't progressed as, like, fast and far as some of these other guys. And so, I think he's, like, braking, rotating, doing these things that, like, if you go back and look at, like, old Formula Drift tape, there's a lot of evidence of that happening. But, like, now that's not the case. And so I think if it's so hard to look at things in a bubble, right? Like, in every sport, I think I mostly watch football or soccer, and then even in the little bit of, like, college football I watch, and sometimes, like, you definitely, like, a call changes based on a person, right? Like, every person has inherent bias in situations. And so I don't fault the judges for maybe having some bias against him, but I also think that, like, with all of these previous incidents, like, I think Forrest needs to kind of be, like, extra, like, aware of, like, his braking and these actions to, like, continue to grow and advance.
Right. Yeah, I don't think that I have anything to add to that. I agree with you. Just is what it is. Point number 3, Travis Reeder ties the all-time wins for Pro 2 record. So, my boy Travis Reeder, the machine, as I like to call him, is... Listen, I like Travis Reeder. Besides him just being a really good guy, right? He is extremely talented. He has a place in Pro 1, and I hope that we get to see him there sooner than later. And, listen, Pro 2 hasn't been around. How many years are we at now? 5?
That doesn't sound right. It's definitely not 5.
4?
I was gonna say 3, but it might be 4.
Okay. So when we say
Why you gotta ask hard questions? I don't know the answer.
I'm sorry, and you know what? You don't have to go looking for it. No one's gonna care. But the point is, it's not like the series has been around for 29 years, and Travis Reeder came along, and now all of a sudden he is tied up with the most winning driver ever in Pro 2. But it does say something about the fact that to kind of earn that title, keep that respect, and kind of continue to maintain growth and wins from year to year is a pretty substantial thing, especially since this is his year number 2 for Travis.
Yeah. So.
Right. I think so.
Correct. Yeah. Because he won his first event was Road Atlanta 2017.
No, his first event, his first event win was Road Atlanta, right? Yeah. His first event ever was Orlando in 2017, and he was second. He finished second to Lawrence.
And then Road Atlanta 2017 was the first event you guys worked together, right?
Correct, because we had half of the season, half of the event in Orlando because he kept breaking whatever wheels he had, and Caleb Quambach actually gave him. Gave him a bunch of hypergrams to run on. But
that's cool. So apparently you're a drifting genius, and you don't need me to be on the show. But apparently Pro 2 is in its 5th season.
Man, every once in a while you pull one out, and and it feels good. So that's nice.
Interesting fact.
Yeah.
I think this is an interesting fact. is that from looking at this sheet, it looks like Jeff Stoneback won the first ever Pro 2 event.
That is an interesting fact. Yeah, all right.
Anyway.
Good for that. So moving on, are we you have any more you want to say about Mr. Reader?
I hope he wins.
Me too.
You know,
not just because he's over stuff, just because I'm friendly with him, you know.
I understand. I mean, you know, right now there's a Canadian who's the most winning Pro 2 driver of all time. So, you know, for my American pride, I'd love it to be an American, I guess.
Okay.
That's my spin.
That's fair. I mean, it's a valid point. Point number 2, Ken Gushi also... Oh, well, no, he almost delivers on his promise, right?
Yes, almost.
Explain the promise, because you clued me in before just because I was a little out of the loop here.
So I tried to pull it up actually before I wrote it, and I couldn't find it at the time. But
right.
He basically posted that he was like, I can't win the championship, but I can F it up. That was essentially I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically what he said. It actually generated a lot of hype. Like I saw a ton of people post about it. They're like, this is what Formula Drift needs. And so I was kind of excited too. I was like, and then he drew James Dean, and I was like, oh man, like
here we go.
You know, Ken Gushi cashing checks that, you know, he can deliver, so to speak. And so, you know, and then he came really close. He did good, and he lost.
So close. No.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it would have been a really great, you know, story. Like he said he was going to screw up the championship, and then if he would have beat Dean, he would have walked his Toyota teammate right into a championship.
It was almost the equivalent of the Babe Ruth point before he hits the home run kind of thing.
Right, except
but he didn't hit the home run.
He hit like a foul ball.
Right. he kind of put it right to the shortstop.
Yeah. So, you know, I mean, I don't know. It was fun. It was cool that he went out and did that, but, you know, didn't work out for him in the end.
Right. So close. Point number 1, final point here. Aasbo can halt the back-to-back. I mean, this is not hard to figure out. He's not that far from, what is he, 49 points, you were saying? 49 points behind Dean. Mm-hmm. So if he wins and Dean kind of goes out earlier, then he could absolutely do that. He could break up the James Dean's place here.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of game on. Like, I think a lot of people are cheering for Frederick Aasbo. Maybe not. I could be wrong. I don't want to speak for everybody.
Right.
I'll speak for myself. Like, I'm kind of cheering for Frederick Aasbo. I love James Dean. If you go back in the Rec Magazine archives, there's hundreds of articles from me wishing James Dean would come here. Very pro James Dean. I remember on his first trip here, he blew me away. He came to my old house. We chatted a bit one day. Great guy. Nothing wrong with him. But at the same time, I think coming in and winning 2 championships in your first 2 full seasons is like mad disrespectful.
Oh, come on.
No, it is. Like,
come on.
Not to for him. Like, he's a competitor. He should win. Like, but like, I think like these other drivers need to like defend their turf, defend their series. I mean, it is. It's like, you know, like the example I give is like when Daigo came, right? Daigo just destroyed the series, 2013. I mean, Daigo just steamrolled the championship. And then everyone kind of like got into like a mutiny against him, and they're like, we're just going to take Daigo out at all costs. And so a lot of people built their cars to match his car. Like, he had a lot of horsepower, some things cleaned up here and there. And so I think it's just kind of the same thing. Like, you know, Formula Drift wants to be the best series in the world. I think the best drivers in the world are there, but like, I don't know, like, is James Dean going to become the Jimmy Johnson of Formula Drift? And for those that don't watch NASCAR, Jimmy Johnson won 6 championships in 8 years. I mean, I want him to win. I want him to do well, but it's like at the same time, like, I don't know. I don't really find myself cheering for anyone that's a champion. You know, like a back-to-back championship is just.
Yeah, you want to root for the underdog a little bit.
Yeah, so, you know, I don't know. It's frightening that he's this close. to me a little, and then I'm like, who is in line to stop him? Like, who's taking this guy out? I have a really small list of no names.
All right, fair. I mean, the one thing at least I would say is at least we're not going into the championship round, because at one point, like halfway through the season, maybe round 4, round 5, there is the potential that we could get to the last round and there was no reason to have a last round.
Yeah, that was a concern, and then I think Dean went out really early.
Right.
And kind of helped put things back on the track. And Aasbo won 2 events, right? Like, Dean went out early and Aasbo won, so we got some parity back for sure. But I don't know. I mean, I think I wrote about it at one of the other events too. Like, I'm really liking Aasbo these days.
Yeah, you said.
Well, like on top of that. So, go Aasbo.
All right.
I'm going to make sure I tag him tomorrow on my Instagram if anyone would like to see a great photo.
Okay.
Sneak peek.
All right. I like it. Anything else you want to say before we head off to the championship round?
I think that's it.
Yeah, we're there. Let's see it.
Yeah, I'll be back just in time to soak it all in.
Oh, that's right, because you're going off to Hawaii, and we'll just be all stuck here waiting for the championship round while you go to Hawaii.
I'll be waiting for it too, just,
in Hawaii.
In better weather.
All right. All right. Why don't you tell people where they can check you out on Instagram so they can check out that Hawaii trip coming up?
Yeah, it's just my name, @JoeyRedmond, JoeyRedmond.
Perfect. All right. That's a wrap. For more info on the podcast, head over to konigwheels.com/podcast. If you've been enjoying the podcast, please subscribe. We're on iTunes, Google Play, and the full video episodes are always on YouTube. You can also catch us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Konig Wheels USA. That's it. We're out of here. Peace.